Ever feel like your team's productivity is stalling, but you can't quite put your finger on why? Understanding leadership voices like The Guardian might be the key to building smoother internal systems and a culture that drives consistent results. Let's unpack what that means for your firm. Welcome to the Revenue Roadmap Podcast, where we explore tools, tactics, and strategies to grow revenue, increase profits, specifically for family law firms. If you're ready to scale with clarity and confidence, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Tyler Dolph, CEO of our digital advertising agency focused only on family law firms called Rocket Clicks. We also own and operate a 32 attorney family law firm of our own. So we have been there. We know where you're at, called Sterling Lawyers. With me today is Tony Karls and Matt Hawker. Tony is the president of our agency and also the co-founder of our law firm. And Matt Hawker leads our giant implementation here at the agency. So he is the expert on the 5 voices. And today we're going to dive into the Guardian voice and how it affects your firm's culture, what first voice order tendencies mean for managing teams, especially in high stakes, emotionally charged environment like family law. Yes, welcome back all. We're talking Guardian, and Matt and I are both connectors. We're continuing our giant series on the 5 voices. I would say Guardian's probably the least like us, Matt. So we're going to have to stick to the notes because we won't have a lot of personal experience here. But why don't you start us off? Give us a little background on this mysterious Guardian voice.
Yeah. So Guardians, they are probably one of the most responsible voices on your team from a responsibility standpoint. They love process, and the way that they create those processes is through asking questions and getting clarifying information. They are champions of asking questions. And I'll never forget the first time I met a Guardian. I thought to myself, why is that guy the way that he is? That's who asks that many questions. And then I started to understand why he asks so many questions. And I'm like, oh, okay. They're very in the moment, present oriented thinkers that want to get to the root cause and understand all of the information as they can in order to build a process around what it is that you are talking to them about. So
Tony, I have to believe that attorneys, Guardians would make great attorneys. Is that true? Do we find that in our firm?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna be attorneys that are more. They're gonna look more like grinders. So there's different types of attorneys. Guardians are gonna look more like that. I would say they're highly detail oriented. They'll feel sharp to a client. So the Guardians we've had at Sterling, we've had to coach around ensuring they're not just focused on the information and it doesn't feel transactional, because that can happen, because these are highly emotional cases and people are going through a really hard season. So, how do we make sure that we're still using our EQ, not just like IQ? These are very high. Typically you got high IQ individuals, very logical thinking. So just kind of, how do you balance that? But yeah, I mean, I don't think any voice is better or worse attorney. They're just going to have different skill sets. Like that's what the outcome's going to be. I think our top producer at Sterling, she is a Guardian. She's up in Appleton, crushes it up there. She's very process oriented. She's got her paralegal and legal assistant running on rails with super high processes, but her legal assistant, she's not a Guardian. She's more of a people person, which is a great pairing, because you got, the attorney who's just driving, grinding, moving things forward, knows how to get all the right questions asked and answered. And then you got the paralegal who's a little softer. I think she's a nurturer. So like very relationally oriented. type individual. So
just coming back to the guardian, the strengths of a guardian. We know that guardians are very process oriented, and and we as connectors love that and need that because we're not great at it. What other qualities do guardians possess that help a firm continue to progress and grow?
I would say guardians are champions of stewardship. So if you're, what that means real specifically is if you got a project, they're gonna ask you a million questions to get all the answers that they need so that they can deliver the project on time and under budget. They're going to be just super resourceful from that perspective. They typically are, you have to coach them to not wear themselves out because they're the type of personality that will skip the gym, they'll skip a doctor's appointment, they'll to make sure that they stay on track with the project being on time and under budget. Like they will put their personal needs last in those scenarios. So, from a coaching perspective, you kind of got to watch that. But they're gonna be really consistent, highly capable producers that, if you give them the right tools and put them in the right position, they can be extraordinarily successful.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to help you build efficiencies within your organization, processes, SOPs on how to do things each time, doing it the same way. They're the resourceful ones on the team that help everybody else stay efficient.
100%. Let's move on and talk a little bit about how they process information. As a connector, I'll just speak for myself. I love to verbally process, love to talk things out, to construct my ideas as I'm speaking them, which sometimes can be really destructive for people maybe who report up to me who think everything I'm saying is a rule or they have to go do it. And in reality, I'm kind of just processing out loud. I believe guardians are the exact opposite, Matt. Is that correct?
Yeah, so a lot of times if you're in a meeting with a guardian, you'll see them sitting there like this. And they're thinking. They're internal processors. They're questioning and wondering how to phrase their response in the form of a question because they probably want to go deeper. But when they do eventually talk after the connectors are done, usually what they say is gold. So they've put a lot of thought behind what's coming out of their mouth from a question standpoint, and ultimately what they're trying to do again is to get to the best, most efficient way of doing things, which is where all of their specific questions come from. So yeah, they are mental processors instead of verbal processors.
Yeah, Tony, would you have anything to add there as it relates to how, and because I see you process much differently than I do, for example, is there anything there from a voice order standpoint?
I think guardians are going to look. They're going to try to identify where all the holes are. So they're gonna ask questions that other team members aren't thinking about. And if you give them space and opportunity to speak, and you don't get annoyed with them when they're asking all of their questions, you're going to end up with a better product. So there's a lot of value there. From my perspective, they're really good at keeping, like we said before, they're good at keeping things on track. They're good at keeping things super organized. So these are, high attention to detail, highly organized individuals that are super resourceful, steward resource as well. So that's someone I would, if anyone in my family need an attorney, those are good characteristics in my opinion.
Yes, it's so funny as we go through this series. I keep thinking about my own life and our own team, and even my home life. My wife is a guardian. I'm a connector. We both have our own strengths, and we definitely leverage each other for that. I help her out when we're at a dinner party, and I can talk to anyone, and she helps run the entire house and all of our kids' schedules and all of our at home agenda. So it's so funny how the guard or the voice orders impact our daily life, whether like every interaction, the way that we are, and the more we can understand what our voice order is personally, the better we can understand ourselves first and primarily, and then better understand our team. And so, Tony, I'd love for you to tell our listeners how we rolled out the Giant platform. Give us a little perspective on like the right way to do this. I think we've talked a lot about the different voice orders during this series, but we haven't really touched on like, if I want to do this, how should I do that in my own law firm?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts first and foremost with the top leader of the business. Their buy-in, I think, is the first major hurdle, which really means, can I get into this box of what Giant is and start using common language and creating clear definitions so that we all can speak the same language. After kind of that hurdle is overcome, doing it with your top team members and having that small group kind of go through and learn about themselves together. So it's kind of a group exercise where each person is going through, it's called Transforming Team Communication Workshop, and they're literally learning about themselves, and other people that are in the group are learning about, oh, that's why Tyler is the way Tyler is. Okay, that's interesting. And as the creative is described, and Tyler's like, oh, that's why Tony is the way he is, and I don't ever understand what the fuck he's talking about. So it's really helpful there, because you really start to unmask your unknown quadrant. And you don't know stuff, so now you can actually start learning. And once you get the leadership team, your core team involved, then you would kind of go to the next layer, and you kind of just keep slowly rolling it out through the org. But first and foremost, the top leader has to be engaged. The leadership team needs to be engaged and bought in, and then you can work with the rest of your team. So if you're going to start with the bottom layer of your org, you're probably not going to see much impact, because they're probably feeling all of the, one of the tools that they talk about is support challenge matrix, and they're probably feeling all of the negative quadrants that exist within that, because people are unaware of who they are and how their tendencies impact others.
Yeah, Matt, any additional advice there as we rolled out Giant in our own organizations?
I would say Tony's spot on. It starts with the top, and it's being able to show your team what good looks like, and I guess doing unto yourself what you expect of your team. That's what leaders do, and I would definitely encourage the leadership team to go through it first, instead of having somebody within your team lead it with people that are maybe a little bit lower down on the team.
And I think what makes it real effective too is if the leader can be the most open and vulnerable, everybody else will follow. So if the leader can say, here's where everybody already knows what your faults are. So like, I'm sorry if you all of you who are listening think you're perfect. Guess what? Everybody in the world knows you're not, and they can see where you're not. They just don't know if you know that you're not. And when you say it out loud to them, that like, oh, this is a flaw of mine, this is what I need to work on, it's interesting processing it this way, so on and so forth, or I didn't realize that's how I came off, or whatever the vulnerability is in that, the rest of the team will follow. So if you're very closed off and not vulnerable, this probably won't work. If you're willing to step into that arena and like actually grow a team and become a great leader, you'll see your team grow and become great leaders, and you'll see your firm grow as a result.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like, Giant is very interactive. It's very group-based, conversation-driven leadership development. Are there videos involved? Yes, but there's a lot of self-reflection that's also involved in learning why you are the way you are and why others are the way they are. And that starts from the top. Like, 100% agree with you, Tony. 100%.
It's been so fun taking a deep dive into each individual voice during this series, and I would just encourage anyone who's interested. visit the5voices.com. That's going to give you all the information you need about Giant, but specifically take the deep dive to better understand yourself so that you can better lead others and continue to grow your family law firm. Really appreciate both of your insights today. And of course, we will see everyone next time on the Revenue Roadmap. If you found this episode on The Guardian exciting, make sure to go back and listen to the other episodes that we have recorded on the other 5 voices. And make sure to check out our overarching episode as well, as we really dive into the Giant voice order and why this matters for your firm.